And how did you focus it? Is that your dance ability to like say, I'm doing this segment now and that segment now?
Well, of course, you have to surround yourself with people who believe in your vision. And I think that my vision was largely shaped by my personal experience as a child, adolescent, young adult, and now an adult. And it was interesting that you opened this segment by saying, you know, Sid's a competitor and he's won the American. The truth of the matter is, that was the only time in my 25-year career that I made the conscious decision to compete. And my former partner at the time, Gail Gibbons-Madera, and I donated our winnings to Ballroom Basix.
Which is wonderful.
And I wanted to do it because I thought we had a decent chance at winning the title. And I wanted to win, to throw light upon how important non-competitive dancing is. You know, this whole business of ballroom dancing that's emerged in the last...
It's like,
yeah, listen, there's nothing wrong with dance sport if it's something that one elects to do. For whatever reason he or she elects to do it. But to impose competition on children is very detrimental for a whole host of reasons, not the least of which is if you're coming into a school to connect children, to improve the camaraderie among classmates, and weeks later you say, okay, now only 10 of you can be on the team to represent your school. What have you just done? You've created a clique that's made it, and then those who didn't. And you know, generally, if we go into a 6th grade and we're teaching 4 or 5 6th grade classes, that's 100 children. If only 10 of them are going to represent the school, what about that child who was suddenly experiencing a breakthrough in self-esteem? Let's say they're an overweight child or an especially shy child, and the dancing was bringing them out of their shell. And they audition for the team and they don't make it. Look what you've just done. You've undermined everything that you had begun to do for that child. And no child is going to come up to you and say, oh, well, because I wasn't good enough to be on the team, I'm feeling miserable about this program, and so I'm not going to participate enthusiastically anymore. They're not savvy enough to know that that's what's happened to them. We, as adult educators, as arts educators, we know the result. And I used to watch time and time again how crestfallen these young people were, first of all, for not making the team. Then there was an alternate couple. Well, what are you saying to an alternate couple? Well, you weren't good enough to be on the team, but if someone gets injured or they're sick, then you can dance. So suddenly you're creating a second tier, second string,
like
you know?
football, yeah.
The bottom line is, and then quarterfinal, semifinal, final. I would watch children collapse in grief.
The pressure's just too high.
Look, the pressure children, in this day and age, children have a plethora of academic and athletic competition. Why do they need one more activity that is modeled around competition? Children need and deserve an activity that by its very nature is entirely inclusive. Bullying is epidemic right now. We need an activity. When I decided 7 years ago, it was time for me to craft my vision of what this kind of work needs to be, I created a unique rotational syllabus where you do a few steps, just a few, with one child, and then move on while the song is continuing, moving on to the next child. Why is this so critical? Because children don't want to get stuck with someone that they dislike.
Or they don't want to stand by the wall. Like I remember going to high school when I went to all-girls school, and we went to the boys' school to go to dances to try to meet boys. And you're standing there going like, after I was like, you know what, we always just start dancing with ourselves. But I was like, I'm tired of this. I'm not going to wait around for somebody to decide I'm good enough for them to dance with. You know, they should dance, but that's not how it goes, because that's more that whole dating thing. But if you get them, I'm thinking at 6th grade, because they're just out of elementary, junior high is such a terrible, like, I mean, it's a great thing, but it's so hard, and all that's edgy, and they get all weird.
And 6th grade is so critical because this is the first year that children are coming together from different elementary schools and have a new peer group.
And they're maturing, like
And they're
physically
maturing.
inside, and
Yes,
all kinds
and
of
of
stuff.
course that whole process is happening younger and younger.
Yeah.
So 6th grade is especially tough. So if you've got an activity that by its very nature levels the social playing field and says, you know
Creates
what,
unity.
you're going to be dancing respectfully and rotationally with every single classmate, regardless of shape, size, ability, popularity, ethnicity, sexual orientation,
clothing, wardrobe,
the
money,
whole
everything.
shebang. And I think it's very important in this day and age to also reinforce that in our program, we also have lady leaders and we have fellow followers. This doesn't necessarily coincide with a child's self-perception
Yeah.
of sexual orientation, for example, but maybe they just are like, it's a guy who says, well, I would like to be in the follower's role, or a young lady who says, well, I would like to be in the leader role. We feel that every child should feel self-expressed, and that when two human beings connect rotationally and respectfully with one another, it's genderless. It doesn't matter that it's, I mean, yes, in the history of ballroom dancing, it's gentlemen and ladies, and we understand that.
But not in the dance you love, in tango, historically
Historically,
it
it
was men
began
and men.
between men and men. That's correct, because it was danced in the brothels, and so outside of the quilombos, outside of the whorehouses of Buenos Aires, no respectable woman in society would dance a tango, so the men had to practice with one another. And so, yes, tango was danced quite widely among men before it was introduced societally. So I'm very, I have a male partner, Claudio Vidal, from Buenos Aires. He was the first man in the history of the Campeonato, the Mundial in Buenos Aires, to wear heels. He wore a suit, but he wore heels. And he was interviewed by about 5 European magazines afterwards saying, well, what kind of a statement are you trying to make? And this is so radical, and this is so, he says, I'm in the follower's role. Of course I'm going to wear a heel. The follower, the foot feels and reacts and dances differently in a heel. It has nothing to do with my gender. It has to do with the role that I am playing in this dance.
Right. Now, do you ever